Right, welcome to the video. Your resume or CV may have all these different sections. I only recommend these six, and if you want to know more, I have a whole video on that. And of those six sections today, we're just going to be focusing on the hobbies and interests section. So at the end of this video, if you follow along, I'm going to go through a step-by-step process so you can have your own hobbies and interests section that looks just like this. So in this video, I'm going to be briefly discussing why you need the hobbies and interests section and go through step by step on how you can prepare yours accordingly with some solid examples. I'm Professor Job Offer, and I've spent the last 10 years with a number of Forbes Global 2000 companies and have helped people land jobs and interviews at companies like this, including Amazon and Google. And I'm here to share with you my tips and tricks on landing your next job offer. So let's dive right in. Why do you think you need hobbies and interests? Well, let me think about that for a second. Here are my reasons on why you need this. First and foremost, it really helps to demonstrate your personality. What is it that you'd like to do outside of your work? What are you interested in? And secondly, by having the hobbies and interests that are very unique to your own, helps to differentiate yourself as compared to the other candidates. It helps the candidate stand out. And some of the hobbies and interests can become great conversation starters, especially if the interviewers also have similar hobbies and interests. And next, depending on what you list as your hobbies or interests, it can also help to demonstrate certain skill sets that are necessary for the job. It'll get you some brownie points for that. And I'll talk about that more throughout the video. And lastly, this is what companies are starting to look at more to see if the candidate is culturally fit. What do we mean by this? By examining what kind of hobbies and interests they have, we can get we can get a sense of whether the candidate is prefers to stay indoors or they like to be more outdoors, or whether they're active or they prefer to, or the other way around. So yeah, these are the reasons on why we need to list hobbies and interests. So let's go through this step by step. Step number one, you need the section title. Well, obviously you can call it hobbies and interests, but you can also call this activities and interests. They're indifferent, and or you can even just call it interests and others. So choose whichever one you like and whatever font or design that you prefer. And that's how we start off with line number one. You choose the section title. Secondly, you have to choose your hobbies and interests. And well, if you don't have one, just start one today and you could call it your hobbies or interests. And the tip here is that you want to be diverse. What I mean by this. So you do not want to list soccer, football, and basketball under your hobbies and interests. They may all be your hobbies and interests, but you don't want to only focus on one specific area. So you don't want to, please do not list drawing, painting, and sculpture as your hobbies and interests. Same thing. One more example. You don't want like fishing, hiking, camping, everything you do outdoors. Add some diversity to it. Here's a chart of some of the hobbies and interests that are pretty common that people like to list on their resume. Choose 3 to 5 of them. I mean, sports, there's a little asterisk there because instead of listing just sports, you might want to specify a little bit more. And all the hobbies here, you do want to provide some details with hard numbers, and I'll get to that in a second here. So once you have chosen your 3 to 5, you list it right below your section title, like language learning, traveling yoga, or golf, reading, photography, and so on. And step number 3, we want to look for relevant action verbs to the hobbies and interests you have listed. So if it's something like sports or any sports, like whether it's soccer or basketball, volleyball, you have some relevant action verbs to it, like you play or you practice. I hope you practice, or you might even compete, or maybe somebody coaches that sports as their hobbies or interests. Or if you have chosen language learning as one of your hobbies and interests, there are relevant action verbs to this as well. Maybe you practice the language, perhaps you teach or you participate in like a language exchange program, or you present in that language or give speeches and so on. Or if you have chosen traveling as one of your hobbies, you have verbs that are relevant to traveling, like visit somewhere, you explore, or you adventure, or perhaps you discover something. So whatever hobbies you've listed underneath, you want to add these action verbs to it. Just make a list. It doesn't have to be perfect sentences at this point. So for traveling, you visit, experience new cultures. Yoga, you practice, maintain well-being, and live a balanced lifestyle. Perhaps for golf, you practice, improve, you compete, Photography, you take photographs, maybe you edit some photos as well as relevant action verbs. For blog, publish, write, research, analyze, test. And this is what I mean by you're able to demonstrate certain skills. Like if you happen to publish or write blogs or do some writing, it helps to demonstrate your communication skills, like written communication. For cooking, you say you take classes, you test with ingredients. Perhaps this demonstrates that you can be creative as well. So anyways, this brings us to step number 4, the hard numbers. What do I mean by hard numbers? So, well, if you happen to have listed some kind of sports, you will probably have the frequency. How often do you play or practice this sport, or how many? Like how big is your team, and do you happen to compete in any competitions? Same thing. Like if you've listed any kind of fine arts, what is the frequency that you engage in this fine arts? Or do you have a portfolio perhaps of maybe like 20 to 30 different works or even more? Or do you visit or do you go to exhibitions or fairs, or maybe you perhaps even hosted your own exhibitions or fairs? And just like that, I've highlighted it in green. I hope you can see. So don't need to make perfect sentences at this point. Just write down relevant numbers right next to each of the hobbies and interests that you listed. Like traveling, it's like 10 countries. There you go. It's a hard number. Reading, like 2 books a month. Yeah, it may not seem like a lot, but hey, we always want to talk with numbers. Photography, portfolio of 150. Martial arts, like since 2015. Hey, years can be, like dates can be hard numbers as well, like 2 classes a week and so on. Some of you, actually, with great eyes, you might have noticed that each of the examples I provided come with a different font. So if you're wondering about some of the best and worst fonts for resume or CV with examples, go take a look at the video on that. But well, that brings us to step number 5, which is also the final step. This is where you combine your verbs and numbers to create sentences. So based on this example, we said language learning. We participate, practice, learn, and then 2 times a week. And then traveling, visit, experience new cultures in 10 countries. And this is now is when we start making full sentences that actually create some impact. So for language learning, we say participate in French language exchange 2 times a week to practice and learn. You have your numbers and you have your verbs there. Yoga, practice yoga 3 times a week. There's your number, right? Why? I mean, there is a verb. The verbs are maintain and to live a balanced health, lifestyle, and the practice is there. Let's take a look at some other examples right here. Golf, right? We had like practice, improve, and compete, right? Then we turn that into some solid sentences. I practice, here's a verb, golf 2 to 3 times a week to improve and compete and 4 top 10 finishes in 2022. That's great. Photography, enjoy taking photographs of nature and scenery. Right? And what do you have? What are the hard numbers here? You have a portfolio of 150 edited photos. And last one, and so on. I'll let you just kind of read that. But yes, depending on what kind of hobbies and interests you list, you can definitely differentiate yourself, show that you're unique, even perhaps appeal some of the skills that may be relevant to the job you're applying for. So anyhow, in this video, I briefly discussed why you need the hobbies and interests section on your resume, and also showed you a step-by-step process on how you can prepare your hobbies and interests section to look solid and with examples. And if you're wondering about some other tips, such as the most common resume and CV mistakes that people make, I have like a list of 22 of them, including people who have a poorly written summary because you're missing these kind of elements, or having the wrong file type and the ATS doesn't recognize it, and then your resume doesn't even make it to the HR because it's different from the extension the companies you're asking for. I have a video on that. And if you're wondering about the complete list of interview questions with some of the answers, some of the great answers for those, including tell me about yourself, which is one of the most common interview questions, and how to answer that, or just or questions like this using the STAR technique examples, feel free to go check out the video on that. I promise it'll be pretty useful. Well, I'm Professor Job Offer, and I'm here to help you land your next job. Thanks for watching.